In my line of work, it's not uncommon to run into people or situations that can make you uncomfortable. While I'm mostly used to it at this point and have no problem asserting boundaries, this particular experience got under my skin and took my workplace fears to a whole different level of creepy. I'm a massage therapist, late 20s. I mostly work out of a wellness clinic, but I pick up private clients now and then when I need the extra money. Usually referrals, preferably women. This one came through a girl I used to work with. She texted me and said she'd been referred to a woman through a contact at a previous clinic. Sort of a friend of a friend of a friend situation. She couldn't do it, so she thought she'd ask me. The woman requested an evening massage session, was offering $300 cash for an hour. Deep tissue, no medical issues, just stress. My gut said no. I'd worked all day, hadn't been sleeping well, and was just over it. But the idea of $300 for 1 hour was too hard to turn away. And I knew if I said no, she'd just ask someone else, so I agreed. The woman lived in a gated condo building in one of those new developments on the wealthier side of town. Big balconies, slate-colored siding, and no real character to it, just expensive looking. I was texted the address, a unit number, and told to come through the back entrance. That was the first thing that felt a little off. She said she didn't want to disturb the neighbors. Why a therapeutic massage or my arrival would be an issue for the neighbors in a big building like this was beyond me, but I wasn't about to let it stop me from getting paid. I got there, parked my car in the lot, got my table out of the trunk, and made my way to the rear door. Then I punched in her unit number, waved at the camera, and waited. She buzzed me in without saying anything. I took the elevator up to her floor, knocked, and waited outside her door. I remember standing there, and as I was waiting, seeing a shadow pass across the crack at the bottom of the door where it meets the floor. Someone was standing on the other side of the door. I could hear them breathing. It was awkward, so I just acted like I was looking around the hallway, but I can say with almost full confidence that she was standing on the other side of the door, just watching me through the peephole. Finally, the door opened. She was middle-aged, well-dressed, but low-key. She just said thank you for coming, and then brought me in and showed me to the guest room where she wanted the table set up. The place was spotless, like staged for sale spotless. Nothing on the counters, no photos on the walls. It was weird. She went into the other room to change while I set up, told me to let her know when I was ready. When I called out, she came back in wearing a robe, closed the door, laid down face first, and said she had some neck tension and lower back issues. It started normal, a little small talk. She asked how long I'd been doing massage. I asked her if she wanted music, and she said no. Said the silence helped her think. About 10 minutes in, she started asking me slightly more personal stuff, and it was weird. She was whispering. She asked if I lived alone, what floor I was on, if the building had security. I didn't want to be rude, so I found a way to answer without really giving away too much. Then, she said something that literally made my hands stop moving. I could barely hear her ask me if I would promise to remember being there tonight. It was like that feeling of falling in my gut. I asked her what she meant. She quietly sat up, just sat straight up on the table, robe still tied. She started apologizing, said she didn't mean to scare me. Then, she started talking fast. It wasn't wild or incoherent or anything, she was totally lucid. But it was urgent and hushed, like we were hiding or something. She told me she thought her husband was trying to have her killed. The whole situation was suddenly a mindfuck, and I didn't know how or if I should even respond. It's so incredibly frightening to suddenly realize you're alone, with no way to defend yourself, in a small closed room with a stranger who starts acting weird. I felt like an idiot for getting myself into the situation at all, just stood there like a statue. She went on that she couldn't prove it, but things were happening, things she couldn't explain. Like her medications looking different and making her feel strange and sick for the last month whenever he'd come home from a trip. Or coming into a room to find him standing over her food or drink for no reason and then trying to play it off. Weird, hushed conversations he'd had on the phone and people she'd seen him talking to in the parking lot when he thought she'd been asleep. And finally, that he had insisted on them getting life insurance policies the previous year. She told me that she didn't have anyone else and just needed to talk to someone in person, someone neutral from outside the situation, but that he always found a reason to keep her from going out or meeting people by herself. She told me she had booked a massage while he was out working because it was the only way she could talk to someone without him finding out. I still hadn't said a word when she pulled out a folded piece of paper from the pocket of her robe and handed it to me. I took it and opened it. There were names, numbers, and building information. She told me it was just in case and not to do anything unless I saw her name in the paper or on the news, in which case I was to give it to the police. I just put it in my pocket because I didn't know what else to do, and literally at that same moment, we heard the door to the condo open and then shut. She shot me this look like she hadn't expected it to happen, which was terrifying. She then quickly laid back down and whispered to me to continue the massage. I reflexively just started in again. A moment later, we heard footsteps coming down the hall. They stopped right outside the door. Then there was a knock, and a man called out asking her if she was home. She called back and said that she was getting the massage that she had talked to him about. He didn't answer. There was just a pause, then I heard him walk away, deeper into the unit. Completely silently, we continued the massage for another 10 minutes, and then she whispered to me that I should go. She got up and left the room while I packed up. When I went to leave, I didn't see the husband anywhere. She showed me to the door, put $400 in my hand, and told me to have a good night, then closed the door. When I got back downstairs, I just sat in my car for like 10 minutes trying to decide if I should call someone. In the end, I didn't. A couple months later, I couldn't stop dwelling on it, so I tried texting the client again, asking if she needed any further massage service. The text didn't go through. Either she blocked me or the number was disconnected. I looked up the names on the paper she gave me, assuming one of them was her. Nothing. I even drove back by the condo complex, but from beyond the gate I couldn't tell which condo was even hers. I still have that piece of paper. I keep thinking I should throw it away, but for some reason, I never do. If anything further happens, I'll update. Here's a work story for you. I worked nights at a hotel near a major highway for about 2 years. Basically just one of those mid-level spots you pull into when you've been driving too long. We had a continental breakfast and a reasonable reputation. At the same time, it often felt like the type of place where if a light went out in a hallway or something, it stayed out for like a month. Some things got fixed right away, others took a while. It was a perfect mix of legit and sketch. Most nights were dead quiet. This happened on a weeknight in like March or February. I was on the usual shift, 11 to 7. I checked in the last guest around midnight, a guy in his 50s who just wanted a smoking room and an early wake-up call. After that, it was all receipts and emails. Around 1:15 in the morning, the phone rang at the front desk. I picked it up, and a lady said that she was in room 207 and that there was banging in the room next door. Said it sounded like someone kicking the wall or slamming drawers. This caught me kind of off guard. 208 was listed as vacant and flagged in the system as under maintenance. There was a leak from the AC unit or something. I checked the chart again just to be sure, but no one had checked in. No record of a key card issued. Nothing. I tried calling room 208, but no one answered. It just rang and rang and rang. We had mix-ups before. Maintenance guys forgot to update the system, or housekeepers skipped logging room status. I thought maybe someone must have checked in earlier, before my shift, and it just wasn't entered right. Or maybe the maintenance order was actually for a different room and there had been a mistake. Even with that possibility, it didn't settle right with me. I pulled up the hallway cam on the second floor to check if anyone was moving around up there, but I didn't see anything unusual.
Technically, I'm not supposed to go check rooms alone, especially if there's an incident. But it was just me there, and if I called my manager at home over a noise complaint, I knew it would come back on me. So I grabbed the clipboard, a flashlight, and the master key. I walked up the main stairwell. That part of the building is carpeted, so it gets real quiet. I couldn't hear anything at first, but when I hit the landing, I heard like a dull bang. It sounded like it came from the plumbing wall, but I couldn't be sure. I turned the corner and saw the door to 208 was slightly open. Not all the way, but enough that I could see the room light was on. I called out just loud enough to Carrie, told him I was from the front desk and asked if everything was all right. There was no answer, but I heard something inside. A dragging sound. Then metal hitting metal. I took a few steps closer, trying to see through the cracked door. I didn't want to enter, just knock, confirm it was a mistake, and be done with it. I raised my hand to knock on the door, and that's when he stepped into the doorway. Some guy in a face mask with a pry bar in his hand. He clearly had not known I was there until it was too late for him to react. We were just looking at each other through the holes in his mask. I turned around and booked it. I took the stairs 2 at a time, was scrambling so frantically I almost ate it multiple times. I burst into the lobby and locked both sets of front doors, then called 911. I was pouring sweat and remember literally fumbling the numbers and having to redial. The cops were there in about 7 minutes. 2 cruisers did a full sweep. There was no sign of forced entry, but when they checked the closet, they found a manila envelope of old guest key cards. All were deactivated, except one. The weirdest part was the wall. The section next to the HVAC vent had been torn open, like someone had dug into it looking for something. Drywall chunks and shredded insulation everywhere. They didn't find the guy. Whoever he was gone. They didn't catch him in the parking lot, didn't see anything on the street cams either. It was like he just disappeared. I wrote a report and gave a statement. Hotel bumped me to paid leave for a week. After that experience, I asked to switch to mornings. I just wanted to be around other people again. I'd never experienced that kind of freeze-up before, standing there, making eye contact with that guy. The only way I can describe it was like looking in the eyes of a dog who was about to snap. And let me tell you, seeing that grown man come around the corner in a face mask is straight up the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life. It's not even close to what it looks like in the movies. I don't work there anymore, and I don't like staying in hotels now either. Even when I travel, I crash with friends or book small Airbnbs. The cops never found anything in or around the vent, but they think somebody at some point had stored something in there, and whoever this guy was digging around trying to get it out, and it seemed like he did. This happened when I worked at a retail chain a few years back. I won't say the name, but it was one of those mid-range clothing stores in the mall. I was there about a year when they bumped me up to shift lead. Not a huge deal, just meant that I had to do the closing paperwork and be the one to call in reports and stuff like that. Still on the floor most of the time. It was a raise, but not by much. In retrospect, it wasn't even worth it, to be honest, especially given what happened. The problem started with this woman I'll call Amanda. She trained me when I first got hired, knew the store inside and out. She'd been there longer and she'd applied for the same promotion, but they'd given it to me. The day after I got promoted, she got weird with me. Cold, wouldn't make eye contact. Started saying stuff in front of other people, little digs. Like if I asked someone to do anything and she overheard it, she'd say something like, "Guess we're doing things differently now." She stopped sharing stuff I needed too, like layout updates, schedule notes, even supply requests. They were little things, but I knew she was doing them on purpose. Then she started making small mistakes and acting like they were mine. Shelves in the wrong spot, mismarked tags. I'd catch them and fix them, but it felt like she wanted to make me look like I didn't know what I was doing. I mentioned it to the manager once and he just said basically deal with it. Over the next couple weeks, she turned it up. told a couple of the high school kids I was on a power trip and to watch out, pretended not to understand what I was saying when I gave her instructions. She started hovering during close, like watching me count the drawer or lock the side entrance. I'd look up and she'd just be standing there pretending to do inventory. Then, one night, we got scheduled to close together, just us. We closed at 9 and by 9:15 the store was empty. I figured fine, we'll get through it. I didn't want to cause trouble, I just wanted to finish and go home. I was in the break room doing the closeout sheet. Then, she came in and shut the door behind her. Didn't say anything at first, just stood there. Then, she asked me if I really thought I deserved this job. I said I didn't choose anything, I just got scheduled and I'm doing my part. Then I tried to step past her to get back to the register. She grabbed at my shirt, full on grab. She told me that I hadn't earned it and that she'd been there longer. Then she turned and slammed the shelf off the wall, like fully ripped it down, metal brackets and all. It hit the floor and made a huge noise. Before I could even react, she started screaming. She started scratching her face, slapping her own arms and yelling for me to get off of her. I wasn't even near her at that point. She threw herself into a plastic chair, knocked over a rack of hangers, then started crying and hyperventilating. It was all happening in real time, fast and messy. She was acting like she'd been attacked, and anyone walking in right then would have believed it. I backed out, called the store manager, then mall security. I stayed in view of the camera near the time clock. I didn't want there to be any confusion about where I was or what I did or didn't do. Security showed up pretty fast. When they got there, she was sitting on the floor sobbing. She told them I attacked her, said I slammed her into the wall and tried to touch her. I was so in shock I could barely speak, and my whole body was like shivering. I kept asking them over and over to check the cameras. I'd never been in a situation like that, and I didn't want to move or talk too much. I didn't even sit down. I just stood there next to the desk and waited. Finally, they separated us and police came. I honestly thought I was going to get arrested, and I was still shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone. The store manager got there and pulled the break room camera footage. Thank God it was working. It showed her walking in, shutting the door, grabbing me, slamming the shelf, and hurting herself. All of it. You could even see me back away, not touching her once. She got fired on the spot. Even still, some of the employees who had taken her side kind of avoided me after. They knew they were in the wrong, I think, but no one apologized. No one said anything. I'm very lucky it turned out the way that it did, because there was a very real chance it could have turned out the way that she wanted. That everyone would have believed her, and who knows where I'd be now if that were the case. As screwed up as it was, I try to make light of it. And whenever I tell someone the story, I always tell them that I'll never take another promotion without a camera in the room.